Hi, we've just had the union budget that's been presented earlier today. Now, while there's a lot of nitty-gritty that everyone will pore through and make observations, what I'd like to do is share my big takeaways and the only real things that matter to long-term investors. First, let's look at the two important numbers. The first number is the fiscal deficit target of 3.2% that the government is targeting next year. The deficit is the gap between the government's receipts and expenditure. So lower number means the government needs to borrow less, which means lower interest rates, which is good. Second, even while controlling expenditure, the government is actually boosting investment spends by 25%, which is great. This is what creates sustainable growth. Now, most people look for big themes in every budget. For me, the big theme, not just with this budget, but with how this government has been behaving, has been how they're challenging the status quo. Governments have been following practices from the British Raj days without even questioning whether they're still relevant. For example, we've actually now advanced the budget date to 1st February instead of 28th so that we can actually hit the ground running on April 1. It seems amazing that we still had a separate rail budget until someone woke up and asked why. The Planning Commission, our inspiration from the Soviet days, is gone. Why did we have so many government oil companies? ONGC, HPCL, BPCL, IOC, etc. Finally, they will be merged. This will allow them to invest more efficiently as a larger entity. Then now, of course, in this budget, we've seen the end of the FIPB, which is the Foreign Investment Promotion Board. Now, 90% of FDI is anyways allowed automatically. This was a body that met once a month to clear all the other proposals. In today's digital age, this is ancient. It's gone. The big change for me in this budget, and a great follow-up move to the demonetization exercise, is the reform to electoral or political funding. Now, political parties can no longer accept cash more than 2,000 rupees from any person. Also, the government has introduced electoral bonds, which allows donors to remain anonymous. So you could actually go buy a bond from a bank and give them to a political party without being worried that any other party would come to know. Both the need to give in cash and the ability to take in cash is gone. Now, we all expected major tax cuts in this budget. Some people are disappointed, but I think the government's actually done a smart job. They've reduced the tax rates for mid-sized companies and small-sized companies from 30% to 25%. These are companies with revenues less than 50 crores. While the big guys are still paying the same taxes, 95 to 96% of the companies that are paying taxes were actually these mid and small-sized companies. Lower taxes means lesser incentive to generate cash. Likewise, taxes have been cut for individuals with income bracket between 2.5 and 5 lakhs, and it's been cut by 50%. That's a great move. Finally, I think for the markets, they actually haven't brought back a blanket long-term capital gains tax on equities, which was a big rumor doing the rounds. What they've done is actually tweaked it smartly to nab the people who were gaming the system. And I think what they're also doing is aggressively moving to disallow cash usage. So the ban on taking more than 3 lakh rupees in cash for a transaction is coming into place, with of course a host of incentives on encouraging digital transactions. Now, how does it all add up for financial markets? One, there was a fear of long-term capital gains coming in, which hasn't come in, so markets are happy. Second, lower government borrowing means lower interest rates. Good for business, good for consumers, good for both bonds and equities. And finally, the big jump in investment and rural spending means we now have some of the much needed growth stimulus that the economy was looking for. This was Budget 2017 in a nutshell. Now let's all go back and see what Mr. Donald Trump has to say tomorrow.